Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first community conversation for 2025 that we're putting on here at Link NKY. I appreciate everyone braving the cold weather and the flu outbreak that we're having to come join us here at the Erlanger branch of the Kenton County Public Library. And I'd like to welcome everybody also watching at home. And you'll get to participate in the conversation here just like the folks in the room. So that's the really cool thing about the hybrid technology that we use. My name is Lacey Starling. I'm the president and CEO of Link NKY, the voice of Northern Kentucky. And I'm really excited about tonight's community conversation about how to get more involved in your community. And Megan Goth, our executive editor, is going to talk a little bit more about how we arrived at this topic and how Northern Kentucky performs on this. But this is the first of 6 community conversations that we're going to be having this year. And all of the topics are determined by you, our readers. We did a community survey last fall, and the results of that survey, the issues that you all highlighted as the most important in Northern Kentucky, are the issues we're going to be focusing on in our super issues, which there are copies outside if you want to pick those up. Thank you, Vanna. And also, we're going to be focusing on in these community conversations. So the topics this year are going to be healthcare, housing, education, workforce, and infrastructure. So small things. I expect us to solve all of them by the end of the year, certainly. But I want to start off by thanking our sponsors. These events are free to the public, and in order to keep them that way, we need support, both from sponsors and from community members. But I want to thank those sponsors tonight. Fisher Homes is our venue sponsor, so helping us be here. Yes, absolutely. GBS, Global Business Solutions, is our audience participation sponsor. Their support makes it possible for folks in the room and at home to participate in this conversation. It's very cool technology, and we're really grateful for that support. Our event partner is the Northern Kentucky Forum, so we're very excited, yes, about this partnership that we have with the Northern Kentucky Forum. So, every month there are great events. Some months there are, some months they're the Northern Kentucky Forums. On the back of your program, you'll see the next events that are coming, and you can register for those tonight if you're all pumped up and excited after tonight's event to do that. And then finally, we have support from Gateway Community and Technical College. So, yes. All of my favorite people sponsor us, so I really love that. I also want to give a quick shout out to our staff for putting this together. We have a small but mighty staff of 12 people at Link. We act much bigger than we are, but Nicole Trimpe, who is our VP of Development, Megan Goth, our executive editor, Maggie McDonald, who's in the back of the room, and everybody on Facebook. If you're seeing comments being put in the Facebook feed, that's Maggie doing that. And Shelly Braun, who's our office manager, who makes sure that we get here on time and have all of our supplies and bottled water. On the front of your programs, there is a QR code for Pigeonhole, which is our audience participation app. So hopefully you all took the survey before the event started, but starting at right now, you can start putting questions into the chat for our panelists. So anything you want to know from them, put into that chat. If you're at home, you can do it too. And then if you see a question that someone else has asked that you think is really important and you want to hear the answer to, upvote it. The more upvotes a question gets, the more likely it will be asked during the Q&A session. And finally, Greg Fisher, my board chair, is in the audience, and if I didn't ask for donations, he would fire me. So, please, as I said at the beginning, these events take time, effort, energy, and money to put on. And if you appreciate the work that we do, there are some papers around with QR codes on them to support us, or you can go to our site, linknky.com, click that support button, the donate button, and throw us a few bucks to help offset the costs of these events and keep them free for everybody in Northern Kentucky. That's enough from me. Now I'm going to turn it over to our executive editor, Megan Goth, who's going to do a little table setting for us about this event. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to stick a little more closely to a script because otherwise I'll curse. So we're all here today because of community. Maybe you're part of a great community that you want people to know more about. Maybe you're new to the area and looking for community, or maybe you're in a new phase of your life and trying to figure out where you fit in now. The idea for this super issue, which I was just showing you, and this community conversation came from a survey that Link NKY commissioned from Northern Kentucky University's Janet Hara and Dylan Fote. The idea was to find out what residents think are Northern Kentucky's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for growth. We expected to hear that the area's housing shortage is affecting most everyone. It is. We expected to hear that many people wished we had better public transportation. They do. What we didn't expect was the overwhelming number of people who said they felt disconnected from their communities. So as I was reporting the story for this issue about civic engagement or community involvement, I stumbled across a civic information index created by Press Forward, which gathers resources for news organizations. The index measures the strength of a community's health based on 4 pillars: news and information, civic participation, equity and justice, and health and opportunity. Each county in the country is given a score of 0 to 100. So if a county gets a score of 70, for example, that means the county performs better when it comes to civic participation than 70% of the counties in the United States. Boone received an overall score of 79, Campbell's was 67, and Kenton's was 70. So we got maybe like a C on average, probably, but there's obviously still room to improve. So what can Northern Kentucky do with this knowledge? National Civic League Director Matt Lenninger said the index is intended to help people understand a broader context and show connections between different data points. It's a tool for investigating, inspiring coverage, and understanding the unique needs of different communities, he said. And it serves as a common language and a starting point for collaborative efforts to improve civic health. On that note, I'm going to toss the mic over to Evan Millward, who will introduce our panel of people who are a shining example of what those collaborative efforts to improve civic health look like here in Northern Kentucky. Evan.
Well, that was much shorter than I expected. Okay. Megan was my boss for a time at WCPO. I can confirm. She should stick to a script so she doesn't curse. That's why we got along so well. Thank you. It's so good to see so many of you here for a conversation about building community. I think that's so important. I'm glad this is sort of the first community conversation of the year, so we can start and build a foundation that way from everything we go from here. If you were with us a couple, 3 months ago, this will not be as spicy as the Amendment 2 conversation we had, which made for good television. I don't know if it made for changing anyone's hearts or minds. So tonight's a little more informal. We're going to talk about what we love about Northern Kentucky and how you all are working to change it and make it better and evangelize Northern Kentucky to everyone else. You can take the guy out of the newsroom, but you can't take the newsroom out of the guy. So I promise you, if it looks like I'm not paying attention, I'm trying, I'm taking notes, I'm reading your questions in Pigeonhole. Use Pigeonhole, it's shockingly easy to use. And I discovered something new about it like every 10 minutes during the last time we used it in October. So I also won't judge you if you're looking down on your phone, typing in. I'll assume you're writing in a question for our panelists as we do this. Let's go ahead and yap, as the kids say. I'm going to start way down at the end and have you kind of work your way up, introduce yourself and why you wanted to be part of this. We'll start with Amanda.
Oh, me first.
Yeah.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Amanda Emmons Shumate. I happen to lead the Department of Marketing and Development for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Cincinnati. And I also spend a lot of time in the arts world, particularly the theater community. So I was asked to join tonight, probably based on those two things, but as a original East Sider of Cincinnati who migrated to the Great South and now lived in Kentucky longer than I lived in Ohio. I've found that this is a very welcoming and exciting community to be part of, and so I'm just grateful to be here today to talk about it. Awesome. Yeah.
Now it's me. Hi, I'm Theresa Cruz. I am the founder and CEO of Fiesta. Fiesta is a nonprofit organization based out of Boone County, and we serve the Hispanic community of Northern Kentucky. And the reason I am here is not just because Lacey asked and I would do anything for Lacey, but it is also because I am not originally from Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky. I'm from Puerto Rico, and we moved here about 11 years ago. And I do want to talk about community and how it felt moving here and being a part of the Northern Kentucky community and what I do now for people that are just getting to this community. So happy to be here. Thank you.
My name is Ben Baker. I am the mayor for the city of Dayton, Kentucky, right down there on the river next to Bellevue and Newport and Campbell County. Born and raised here in Northern Kentucky. Everyone asks, where'd you go to high school? Holmes High School, class of '96, go Bulldogs.
Cool.
My family lives right around the corner over here in Crestview Hills, so this is kind of a second home out here to me as well. I'm here because I love Northern Kentucky. I love community, I love neighbors, and I love being able to connect all those people together to build what we call a community. I'm also here because she mentioned Lacey's amazing. And what she does with Link and what Link provides to Northern Kentucky is invaluable. You know, we're forgotten a lot of times by other media outlets, and not them. They show up for every meeting, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Always watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. Lacey, that's another $1 for each of them because I gave you a shout out. So I wanted to start out and get a sense. Theresa, you started to touch on this, but from each of you, what made you say, I need to get more involved? I want to make this my career. What was there like a pivotal moment for you that you said, okay, that's the calling, that's the dream, that's the goal?
Me first.
Go for it.
That's what you get for sitting on the
Oh
end.
my goodness.
I'll take turns, I swear.
You know, I have the unique privilege of being able to discuss a couple of things, mostly because I was born into a family who believed very strongly in giving back to the community they lived in. So I had the privilege of being raised by two incredible humans who, my mother also came here from, she came here from the Middle East when she was 20, and so it was really important for her to understand what community was in America, right? And she wanted to delve herself into the world of what it was like to be not Arab. Okay, and so, and that was an interesting thing for me, because when I talk about my mother, I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm proud of where you're from as a Palestinian woman who is here and living the life. You came here when you're 20 and look at how successful you are. So, but growing up, it was very much, we're going to the community event, you are handing out bags, you are collecting canned goods for this mission, you are doing this, we are cleaning up the church this week, we are going to the park and trimming trees. It's just what we did. And so from a very young age, I was introduced to the idea that we are only as successful as those around us, and so I credit my parents for that. So it was really easy for me to kind of get into that world, and I became an educator because I was taught, hey, let's look at the youth and let's focus on the youth, and I was a teacher for Boone County Schools for 17 years before changing into making nonprofit world and community world my working life. But the theater world also became my life, and that was by choice, and that was by passion, right? So I think there's two ways to drive. How can we be better as a community and give back in the world that we want to work in and live in, but also how can we fulfill our passions and our energy and the thing that drive us and bring joy to our life? And so I had both of those kind of elements that drove me to where I am today, I think.
And Theresa, I know you kind of answered this in your
Talked
introduction,
about
but yeah.
it, but the reason I got into this was there was a need in the community, and I saw the need, and this could be a strength or a weakness. My husband could probably elaborate more, but I tend to just, there's a need, let's go fix it. Usually I should think about things more, but I kind of go in and do it and think about it later. But this was a need that was a growing need in this community. I know what it's like to be the new kid. My family moved around a lot. So I know what it's like to be the new kid. I know what it's like to be the new family in the neighborhood. And especially for the families that we serve that don't know how to navigate. There's a language barrier. There is a cultural barrier. There's so many differences. People here don't understand, or they don't know. And then the families coming in don't know what to do to assimilate. Do we assimilate? What do we do? Do we speak our language? Do we not speak our language? So for them to have a place to go where they feel welcomed, respected, was so important for me to create a space in the community for people that don't have anywhere to go. And Northern Kentucky is a beautiful place, but it's changing so quickly that I don't think that we're being able to keep up. And that's why I just got into it. I said, okay, there's a need. Let's go. Let's do this. God said, go ahead, go. And I went.
Ben, politics.
Yeah, buddy.
That's a whole different beast.
That's a different
right?
beast,
yeah.
Running
Buddy.
for office is a whole other choice, man.
It is, buddy. I mean, it's funny because you called it a career. Just so everyone understands, the mayor for a city of the size of Dayton, I get $350 a month.
Yeah.
So, I know.
Living large.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a side hustle for me as I joke around. But it's, I do technology for a day job. And I was living kind of in the southern part of Covington, down in Latonia. And my office for my day job is downtown Cincinnati. So I wanted to be, and I also have a slight problem with the Cincinnati Reds. We go to about 30 games a year. So I wanted to be closer to the baseball stadium, and my job too, of course. So I found Dayton, Kentucky, and I moved to Dayton, and I just fell in love with it. And I wanted it to be more of what I kind of wanted, the neighborhood I kind of wanted to live in. I wanted to see more vibrancy. I wanted to see more art. I wanted to see more community involvement. And it seemed like the best way to do that would be to run for city council. So I ran for city council, won that twice, and then I thought, wow, maybe I could give a little bit more if I ran for mayor. And I had no idea what a mayor did. No idea. That was definitely trial by fire, baby. So I ran for mayor, and I won that. But the best part of it is bringing that vibrancy, that community that I wanted to be a part of, and finding out, you know, the neighbors, they wanted to be a part of that too. They just, I guess they didn't want to run for council, and I understand why. So that's why I kind of chose what I wanted to do, to do that was, I wanted the neighborhood to be a part of what I wanted to be a part of, and found out in the meanwhile, a lot of people wanted to do that as well.
What surprised you the most as you blindly walked into the mayor's office a little bit? What surprised you about the demands of the job or the demands of the community that sent you there?
Surprised me the most was I guess like the amount of time that it really takes.
Yeah.
It's not, I thought, you know, at first I'd go to a couple extra meetings a month. I thought maybe I'd sign some checks, which was surprisingly how many checks come across my desk, and how much time it really takes. It's a 24/7 job. Yeah. And luckily I have a great team behind me that takes a lot of it off me, but the mayor gets to direct that. I had no idea it'd be 24/7, 365, getting a phone call literally at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday when you're trying to watch Sunday morning, and the guy says, well, we got a problem with you, Mayor. And I'm like, yeah, what's the problem? Well, my neighbor and I. What's the problem? Well, last night a deer jumped between our 2 yards and he died in the middle of the fence. He thinks it's my problem. I think it's his problem. We both agree it's your problem. I was like, how is a dead deer my problem?
On a Sunday morning.
On a Sunday morning. You know, I'm trying to watch Jane Pauley here. And so I called up a guy who fixed it for $100. They both agreed to pay $50 each. So just those types of things, I had no idea that it is the mayor's problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Theresa, did you find anything aside from, I think you probably experienced the challenges, what has surprised you about your work?
My work. The biggest surprise was how we've become an extended family. The families that we serve, we get invited to birthday parties, we get invited to Thanksgiving, to Christmas. We've become an extended family for these families that are new to the area. So it's been really nice. When we can go, we do, but I can't go to everything that they invite me to. But it's really nice that the families consider us family. It's not surprising in the Hispanic community because we are very family oriented, but it's surprising how many invitations we get and how many people think of us for their kid's birthday or for Christmas or drop by and, hey, I cooked this for you. We get food all the time. People just drop by and will bring us food. Like, thanks, this is great. So
that's how you show love.
Yeah, that's
how I grew up.
Love. Exactly.
Amanda, I'm curious. I think people hear like, oh, so the theater world, that's the fun stuff. But if you're a teacher or your big brother, that's service. What's the pipeline between the two, or what's the overlap between the two?
So I think you can serve and find joy at the same time, right? It's just finding what it is that calls you to that mission. For me, theater, sure, it's fun, but there's something about knowing that we are contributing to a vibrant community that's full of arts, right? There's something about arts education that's not being serviced in public schools all the time or in private schools all the time. There's something there that you can turn into an opportunity to teach and show and share upon, right? But you find joy in it. Big Brothers Big Sisters, sure, we're obviously making an impact on thousands of kids, but my connection is I enjoy the youth and I enjoy what they bring to the table and the conversations and the impact that they have at so little and where they could be. So I think that it's just finding that connection between you and the service that you want to give. I think you can make it joyful, whether it be volunteering the way maybe some people might equate it to time and energy versus also volunteering because you want to be there. So I think finding that balance is important.
I want to get to the reason why I think most people are here, and I just was like, wait a minute, I know why most of you are here, because if you fill out Pigeonhole, you told me. The first opening poll that we did here asked, what are you hoping to get from tonight's discussion? So most people who responded said that they want to learn how to become more involved. Others want to learn specific organizations that they can get involved in. So if that reflects what you all think, I want to start going down that road about how to get involved. And this is open to anyone. What's the best way, and this is an insane question to ask, what do you think the best way is for someone to get involved in their community? But I leave it open-ended for a reason. We'll go that way.
I think we all have our own talents, treasures that we each have inside ourselves. Whether that's art, maybe it's a passion for parks, maybe it's a passion for children. These types of things that we all have, we need to express those. And in a city like Dayton, we have a lot of different organizations. We need volunteers, man. We always need more volunteers. And even if you're just coming to hang out, we love those people too. But find out in your community what type of organizations are reaching out to the things that you're passionate about. And then just reach out to them. Show up at a city hall meeting. Just go to City Hall when you're bored. I do it all the time. And say, hey, is there anything that's going on that I can donate my time, donate my money, donate you stuff for? You never know what you have is your talent or your treasure that could impact your community in a beneficial way.
Is it hard to find those opportunities?
No, not at all. We're always asking people on social media, come on out and volunteer your time and be a part of the community. We love it when people do that.
I feel. Oh, go ahead.
No, don't worry.
No, I was just gonna. Your question about is it always easy to find? I think sometimes we forget that our best advocates are our friends and our family, the people that are doing it. And so if you're speaking with someone and you see that they have this energy and this passion for whatever it is, I'll be honest. I love Big Brothers Big Sisters and what they do. But I would not have fallen in love with the agency if it weren't for my partner, who was a big brother for 10 years. And so his advocacy and his ability to be a cheerleader for that organization motivated me. And I said, okay, I can get behind something like this. So I think the biggest thing, we always have the internet. We live in a world where it's right at our fingertips, where we can Google, right? But I think sometimes we just don't know until we meet the right person. And it's okay to ask questions. If somebody mentions something about an event that they attended or something that they're doing, hey, how did you get started with that? And that's when, I promise you, their face is going to light up and they're going to say, oh my gosh, let me tell you, come with me, because they are our biggest champions in the community that we live in. So if you ask your neighbors, ask your friends, ask your family, hey, I saw you did this event. How did you get involved with that, and how can I do that too? The other thing I might offer to you too is look at what you're already doing. And I think we get a little bit nervous about trying something new. But if say you're at a party and you're that person that's always finding that dog and you're sitting next to that puppy and petting that dog the whole time, then guess what? You probably would do really great thriving in an opportunity to go walk a dog once a week at your local shelter, right? So you're already doing it. The passion is there. Don't be afraid to ask and explore those opportunities in that manner. So that would be my guide for that, other than Google it.
That was what I was going to say. My thing is, ask me what garage sales are in the area. Yeah. I really want to know, so I will Google it. So think of it as, if you really want to do it, you're going to look for it. You're going to think about what you're interested in doing, and you can go do it. That might not be what you fit in with, right? You might try it and go, you know what, this isn't for me. Try something else. It doesn't mean you're married to it. If you don't like volunteering at the animal shelter, you thought you would like it, you don't, let me think of something else. Literally, Google will tell you volunteer opportunities to walk dogs, volunteer opportunities to play with kids, volunteer opportunities to hold babies at the hospital. I have a friend that's what she does. She volunteers holding babies at the hospital. That's her thing. So I think
How do I get involved with
there's a
that?
worse way to spend a day.
I'll
There's a
connect
worse way
you.
to spend a day.
That is a real thing. So I think it's just finding what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, and just going for it, just going and doing it, finding it, calling, and asking.
At the risk of making it sound really easy, right? Like, oh yeah, it's a Google search. There are barriers to entry.
Yeah.
I'd say this about so many things that for being a guy who was on TV for a long time, I'm also it takes a lot to get me out of my comfort zone, or to show up somewhere where I don't know anyone and just start doing the work. I think this cuts a few ways with expertise up here. Obviously, a barrier to entry, like not everyone can become a mayor for $350 a month. And also, oh, by the way, you have to run a campaign and take a call on Sunday at 10 a.m. There's a barrier to entry of if you are moving here totally blind,
Yep.
and maybe there is a language barrier to entry. How do you get over a barrier to entry? What are the barriers to entry? How do we break them down to make it easier? Or to at least make them not, at least get rid of the perception of a barrier to entry?
For me, it's education. We need to educate the people that are already here. Because the people that are coming in don't know anything about Northern Kentucky, right? But we want them to feel welcome. But if these are people that they've never seen, that they don't know, they look different, they speak another language, we need to make sure that the people here understand and are able to welcome them and understand the differences in the communities and the differences in the cultures that are coming in. It's not easy to come into a new area if you don't speak the language. You don't know how to navigate, you don't know where to go for help, you're completely lost. Everything is online. Even registering your kids for school is online. Applying for a job, online. Most of these families only have their phones. They don't have laptops, they don't have computers, so anything that they do, any Google search, anything they do is on their phones. So I think it's a community responsibility to be able to open the doors and to make it a little easier for these families to have access to these volunteer opportunities, to these places where families can go to get help and to just be a part of the community. Northern Kentucky is a beautiful community once you're in it and once you know people. But to get into that, it's hard. And for these families, it's even harder because of the language barrier and the cultural differences.
I don't know if I would recommend people running for mayor. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yes.
But I do recommend, I've invited a lot of people to run for office.
Yeah.
I've taken the papers to their house and said, hey, sign this. Let's get you involved in public service. And those types of barriers, campaigns, they're hard to run.
Yeah.
They are. You walk a lot, you knock a lot, you talk a lot. It's good, but it is a barrier. But I think volunteerism is where it all goes back to, is whether you want to be a part of a community, you don't have to be a mayor. You don't have to be a CEO or a president of an organization. You can just be a volunteer on a board, and that barrier of entry is pretty low.
I'd like to chime in because I'm pretty sure everybody in this room would probably say, hey, yeah, I would love to do that, but my schedule is full. The time, I think, commitment is the barrier I hear a lot of people tell me. And so, things that could encourage that conversation would be consider what time you do have that you're willing to invest and really be honest with yourself about it, because there are opportunities to be what I call micro volunteers. These are volunteers that maybe are not the consistent, hey, every week I'm doing this one thing, but I'm dedicating a couple days a year to give back in this fashion because I can. I'm able to give my time in this way. We also have our people who are engaged in the community financially because they're at a point in their life where they can't give the gift of their time, but they can give their gift of financial support. And I think that that's something that you don't think about, but that is an opportunity. I would be remiss as a development director if I didn't talk about that, right? My development director's in the room, because that is your opportunity, because some of you are in that position where you can do that, and you can say, hey, I know you're making a difference in what you're doing, and I believe in your mission, so let me support that. That is an engaging way to do that. But I think ultimately everybody can agree that there is a level of time that could come into what you're already doing. So what I would express, to you is some people are, I have young children. Right, and so for me, I need to balance my children and their activities and their sporting things, So I think to myself, okay, what can I do that I'm already doing with them? Maybe I volunteer to be the coach. I got to be there anyway. This is an opportunity for me to cross those roads, right? Maybe it's something my kids go with me to do. This is an opportunity for me to show them, hey, as a citizen in our community, this is what we do to build our communities together. So, you know, if you're finding that time is a barrier, there are the opportunities to kind of look at it in a micromanagement kind of way and like, hey, how can I do this in small increments? I don't have to become the mayor, like you said. I don't have to serve on a board where we're meeting every month. I don't have to volunteer every single day or every week. But I could sign up to teach a resume building class for a group of local students who might be interested in growing and what it means to build a resume. I could do that one time in that, you know, and that's an opportunity to give back. So I think we get scared about what that commitment of time looks like, and don't let that scare you. Let that be an opportunity for you to really look at what time you have and how you want to invest it.
The heart of the question is the most upvoted question in Pigeonhole right now, and I'll read it directly. It says, with nearly 40 cities in northern Kentucky, where can I go to see all the opportunities involved in local community, or filter it by cause, or find a volunteer calendar? Does that exist? And someone actually mentioned meetup.com, if anyone has used that. I'm not familiar, but if you are.
I've heard of it, but
Yeah, I mean, where do you, and we talked about Google, but is there someone aggregating all of that?
I would seek your local chambers. I think that there are a lot of cities that are in our region. I mean, even if you look at the Northern Kentucky Chamber and just the community that they provide and the events they provide, they are bringing businesses, nonprofits together. There's going to be events and stuff there. But to your point, I feel like that is an absolute opportunity where we need to, as organizations, come together and offer these solutions. I mean, you know, just speaking on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters, we work very closely with several other nonprofits, and I'm already thinking in my head, gosh, I can tell you right now several families that I want to refer, you know what I mean, who are getting services through Big Brothers Big Sisters that I would love to say, can we talk?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because that's the point. But now when you hear that, I think that's where we need to do better. And that's where the community and the connections come in. And when we start talking about things, we can start building things together. So I would love to learn more about how we can better put them in one place, so it isn't just a Google search.
Yeah. But I think opportunities like this are so
Yes.
important to showcase nonprofits and volunteer opportunities and city opportunities to help out in the city. We could have a day to pick up trash. You could bring the whole family to that. Let's all go and pick up trash. So I think when you do events like this that allow us to showcase the volunteer opportunities and how we really do want to be a part of the community, and we want our clients and our families to be a part of the community, it's really important, and I'm really grateful to be here because that's exactly what we're doing.
And because we do have people watching a stream and maybe don't have access to Pigeonhole or don't think they have access to Pigeonhole, another person responded with leadershipcouncil.us/job-board, and it's options for volunteering.
Oh, nice.
So I'm sure we can keep those.
Keep that,
yes.
Yep.
So another one, and we've talked a little bit about this, Theresa. You've really hit on this. This is sort of your wheelhouse. But Catherine asks, how can we create an inclusive environment that actively encourages diverse voices and perspectives, ensuring that everyone feels valued and supported in our community?
So there are a lot of tables. It's making space at those tables, right? That's what, there are lots of tables in Northern Kentucky, and sometimes there isn't a space for that voice. Sometimes I get to be I'm privileged enough to be the voice at that table, but I think making the space for those voices to be heard, and also educating people. People just don't know. People really just don't know, and when it's the fear of unknown. You're afraid of what you don't know. So I see this person that doesn't look like me. They're not speaking my language. I'm afraid to approach them. I'm afraid to say hi. I'm afraid to, because what if? And I think it's just helping people realize and understand that they're people just like us. They have families just like us. They work. They want the best for their families. But I think it's important to educate and making a space at the table for those voices. just getting people to understand the different cultures and the different communities that are coming to Northern Kentucky. It has become a melting pot. Northern Kentucky has got, Boone County alone has 72 languages in their schools, 72 different languages. I can't name 15 languages, so I don't even know what the others.
I can barely speak one.
There you go. So, I mean, just that alone is telling you the scope of nationalities and of languages that are coming into Northern Kentucky. So I think getting people to understand that and to see that, and I know it also has to do with the industries that we have here. So because of the industry that we have, we're attracting all of these amazing people. So I think giving them the opportunity, or giving us ourselves the opportunity to meet these people and to get to know them is really going to be beneficial to us as people.
That actually, like, there's the sort of the what if factor, and I think there's also a, like, what if I say something wrong, or what if I, like, point them in the wrong direction, or, like, what if there's a misunderstanding?
If people would know, our families don't care. I have families that are just so grateful that you're trying to help. That even if you point them in the right direction, that person at least tried to help me. They were kind to me. They smiled at me. I think the what if, we create this huge what if and we let it determine what we do. And I've had people ask me questions like, what if, who goes to we do a food distribution event every month. And we give out Latino food to our Hispanic families. And last month we had 146 families come for food. And that's a lot of families that are in need of food. But I had someone ask me, well, how do you know drug dealers don't go to you how do you know that the families that you're serving are good? And I was like, drug dealers would not come to me for anything at all. They don't need food and they don't need me. The what ifs and the what if this and what if, these are just people, these are families, they're just like you and me, they just were born in a different place. So I don't know. I really think that the what ifs, we create these huge what ifs and we let them determine what we do. A smile, a nod, a wave, a welcoming gesture, learning hola. I mean, everyone knows hola. It just goes a long way. The families don't care if you mess up or not. They're just happy that someone is being kind.
An audience question specifically, Theresa, for you.
Oh,
along this line was, are there opportunities for people who are interested but don't speak Spanish?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, you don't have to speak Spanish to be kind. You don't have to speak Spanish to package a box of food. You don't have to speak Spanish to hand someone a box of food and say, gracias, and we'll teach you some Spanish. You want to come help? We'll teach you a few words so that you can speak to the families that come. There are always opportunities, and we just need people with big hearts, two hands, and kindness. That's what we're looking for in our volunteers, to be kind to the families that we serve.
We're starting to get some questions, and I had a few questions written down about this. We've talked a lot about volunteering and volunteer work, and we've touched a little on like public service, but a question from the audience is, how do you become a member of a local government board or get involved in local government? There seems to be few or no visibility for board opportunities on any kind of county website, or how do you break into that?
It's a great question. Ask. I can't speak for every city. As somebody mentioned, there's 40 of them out there. We each have our own little, we all have our own boards. We all have our own makeups of volunteerism in the cities. I know that we are always asking for help. We want you, as the Uncle Sam wants you. I want people to come.
It's a great Photoshop opportunity for anyone who's proficient.
Yes.
Right? Oh, please don't.
Picture of that.
But we do want volunteerism, and we have that on our websites, on our social media, saying, hey, there's an opening on our park board. There's an opening on our code enforcement boards. And some of this stuff's not fun. Code enforcement board's not a great time. You're sitting here yelling at somebody for not cutting their grass, and but we need those roles filled. So check out your local websites for your cities. Call City Hall. 491-1600 is my phone number. Call us if you live in Dayton. I want you on a board. Your city administration wants you on a board for their city. So just give them a call and ask, and it's very rewarding.
That led to a question I had written down. If you read the community survey, it shows that a lot of people who responded to the survey in Northern Kentucky feel that they're not connected to the decisions that are being made at the local, particularly at the local level by local governments.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about your role in government and government's role in the greater region?
How many of those respondents came from Dayton, Kentucky?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But it's a good question. And as part of a governing body, I want people to feel involved. I want people to feel that their voice is being heard. We ask our citizens on an annual basis. We send out a resident survey. Do you like what we're doing? Do you not like what we're doing? What would you do? I want to hear this. So we're hearing back from, and sometimes it's not always pleasant. We're hearing back from our residents what they think, and we try to make our decisions based on that feedback. If the city, the region, the county that you're residing in doesn't have those type of opportunities for you to reach out and tell them what you think, you need to make sure that they do that. Get in their face and say, hey, I'd really like a survey. And we've had other communities say, hey, Dayton's doing that, you should do that. That's always nice to hear.
I think the other thing that, again, moving less focused on volunteerism, but just about connection, this feeling of disconnection. The survey was like overwhelmingly positive. We love living here. We love the amenities we have in this region. We love where the region's going, but we feel disconnected. As leaders in your respective fields and with your respective experience, what does that tell you about where the region's going or where we're at right now?
I'm happy to jump in on that because I feel very strongly, obviously we live in a climate where we're always divided about something. We are very opinionated, humans are opinionated, and we are constantly living in a state of divide. And I think that's where the connectedness where that connection is getting lost, because we're forgetting that in a community, in the place that we live, we are all in this together, and we all want what's best for our neighbors, for our children, for the people who live, around us and who make our community the way it is. And so to counteract that, I think that volunteerism is the answer to that connectedness, because what happens is it brings people together who are like-minded, who share a common interest, and who believe in whatever it is that mission is that they're going for. So I would challenge you to say, if you are feeling disconnected, you just haven't found the right fit yet. And so you just need to look and say, where can I feel this connection based on my passion and what I feel is going to be better for a good fit for me, but because I'm going to surround myself with people who believe in the same things that I believe in, that's mission driven. So I think actually volunteerism is probably the answer, well, at least one of the answers to that disconnect, because it's going to build those connections, it's going to build those relationships with the people that you are going to be able to form personal relationships with.
I think being connected equals opportunity, because the more connected you are, the more supported you feel, the more resources you share. So being connected could be in your church, in your school. If you don't have somewhere to go, get connected to a place, a community place. Find a community place. Find a church. Find a school. If you need, go to classes. The UK Extension Office has tons of classes for free that you can go and meet people. When we're connected, we're stronger. And Northern Kentucky, that's the piece that we're missing, is that connectedness, that belonging that would make us stronger. We've got tons of stuff. We've got lots to do, we've got lots of stuff, right? We've got places to shop and restaurants galore, but it's the people that we need to make stronger, and we need to get them more connected. If we're more connected, we are stronger, and there's more opportunity for us to grow, right? Resources, support, just fellowship, and that's what's important.
When you're volunteering and you're giving your time, when you're saying let's put boxes of food together for communities, you're doing that alongside a person you may not know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're finding, that's actually a kindred spirit. We have the same want to help. And all of a sudden you start becoming more connected. And, now you find yourself walking through the grocery store and saying, oh, I know that guy. And we were on a food drive together, or we were on a trash pickup together, or whatever it is. There's 1,000 things you can do out there. But yeah, that definitely helps with the connectivity of a region, of a city.
I think there was a lot of conversation. I want to remind everyone to keep putting questions in. There's questions queued up. I've got my questions. Sometimes I just feed off of what you say, but you at home can join in on Pigeonhole as well. But everyone keep upvoting questions you want to see, especially if I haven't gotten one and you're annoyed at me and you want to throw something at me, be like, ask my darn question, upvote it, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I got it. But I want to ask a little bit of like sort of the landscape of this. How has it changed since COVID?
I don't know.
I mean, I can speak on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters because we have the the data that
Yeah.
shows it.
Are you digging out of a hole?
I mean, yes, I think we're financially digging out of the hole. We're missing volunteers. I mean, we were serving over 1,000, almost 1,200 children prior to COVID here in our region. Because the volunteers were there, they were showing up, they were willing to give that time and that energy. And then COVID hit, and we obviously all dispersed into our homes, and we were forced to leave those connections that we built and those relationships that we built, and we were forced to turn our devices on and meet people in little screens on our computer, and we just lost what it meant to grow that human connection through COVID. So our volunteer base significantly decreased because they just didn't return, right? They lost that connection with their little. It wasn't there anymore. Their littles were struggling. Our littles were struggling. A lot of them were losing their home, were moving away from Northern Kentucky because they just didn't have the support that they needed during COVID. So connections were lost, and I think everybody saw that. And then everybody took a financial hit too. I mean, it was a time where you just couldn't give because you were so worried about preserving yourself, right? And that you couldn't take that time to think about anybody else in that moment. So we are still digging ourselves out. We are still hunting volunteers. We have a waiting list of about 179 children right now waiting for that mentor, and they've been waiting. We're making the matches and we're getting there, but as we make the match, we got new kids coming on the list waiting for that perfect person to say, hey, let me share in this journey with you and be a mentor for you. So we're getting there, we're digging out of it, but I think all of us can say that was where we lost our connection with each other, was during that time.
And like any momentum you might have had
Yes.
going in, right?
Yes, all of those relationships got forced into our homes, and it's okay. We took care of each other in the way that we could, in the best way that we could. But now that we're here and we understand the aftermath of it, we have to start talking about, okay, what's the next step? What are our growth opportunities, and how do we get back to serving the way that we were prior to COVID? I think COVID can't be an excuse anymore. I think we use it. Yeah, I think it was an excuse too, and it's become a crutch, and now it's time to say, okay, let's do it together. You know what I mean? We are better together. Let's grow bigger and move forward.
For me, it was the exact opposite. COVID, I was serving Hispanic families during that time. I was working for another agency, and it wasn't a big amount. After COVID and after things started to get back to normal, the amount of Latino families that have come into Northern Kentucky is crazy, in the thousands. There was one school, to give an example, Boone County had maybe 2%, 3% Latino in all of Boone County. Right now it's at 12%. And if you go to Ackerman or if you go to Florence, I think it's Florence Elementary, or Collins and Ackerman have 51 and 49% Latino students in their school registered, and those two schools. So the amount of COVID wasn't an excuse. My people grew. We grew in numbers. So that didn't affect us. What did affect us was the resources, the way things are done are very different now, because now everything is NTI, so non-traditional instruction, and that's really hard for families that are coming from countries that don't know what that is. So for me, COVID hurt that part, because we lost the connection, we lost the in-person. Now everything is Zoom. My families don't do Zoom. My families don't like Zoom. They like to be in person. They like to be together. So I think getting back to that, for the community that I serve, that's what I've been really trying to fight for, is to get away from the COVID isolation and the COVID Zoom and the everything is online, and now we're doing, instead of fun snow days, it's an NTI day, And that's really, it's been hard.
Kids got hosed on that NTI day.
Yeah,
They really did.
They did.
fond
That's not
memories
fun.
of snow days as a
Yeah.
kid, right? The biggest audience question now, and Amanda, I'm going to start with you again because this is very much your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Two ways. I'm going to call this section the "How do we reach these kids" section. And the question is, how do you inspire, how do you empower the younger generation to give back? And I think that there is a overriding belief from a lot of people that kids don't want to get out and do this. And I don't know that that's true, but I do think like it is a challenge when you had a break for a number of years where no one was doing
Right.
the traditional level of service that you consider. So how do you empower them? How do you inspire them to go do?
Yeah. I think the biggest answer to that would probably be exposure. I think if you are an advocate and you show them the impact that one person can make and expose them to different opportunities, that is when they can see and the power of their own impact and what they can do, even as young boys. I think one thing at Big Brothers Big Sisters we've been trying to do, even since COVID, this is a new ideology for us, is we want to give the voice to these children. So we have platforms. It's our job to utilize our platforms and our privilege to tell stories, right? And to connect and make those connections. So it doesn't always have to be my voice telling that story. I think if we start empowering the youth to share their thoughts, their processes, how they think of things, and show them that their opinion and their what they have to say it has value, it has merit. We started we're in the process of making a little advisory committee. We want to hear from our littles. What was the experience like for you? How did you grow in this program? What could we do better? We want their voices to be heard. So I think we forget that these little people have opinions, and we want to give them that platform and that opportunity to share these opinions because they matter. And their ideas are way better than any idea that I can ever come up with. And so I just listened to my son, and I listened to the things he's saying, and I said, well, I won't say the word. That was a really great idea. That's, but I mean,
Megan
but
had started us. We could have been really free up here.
Yeah, she said, I don't have a script, Megan. I'm gonna draw. But as a performer, I need a script. No, it's just, I think just remembering that these little voices matter. And so I think giving them opportunities to own and show value in their words is really important. So exposing them to the opportunities and telling them it's okay to share your opinions on something. And then listening to their opinions, because sometimes they know better than we do.
Yeah. I mean, what if they're not expressing a desire to go do? I mean, my parents drug me out to things to volunteer, to have new experiences, even if I was like, I do not want to go. And sometimes I had the time of my life. And that instilled something in me, I think. But
I was the same way.
How do you?
You just have to do it. But I also think, it goes back to empowering them. So if I knew my child was interested in something or this young person was interested in something, then I would encourage them to go chase that interest. You got an interest in Lego building? Great, let's go to a community meeting where there's some younger kids that might need to be taught how to do a Lego building thing, you know what I mean? And you deal with, these teenagers that might be interested in gaming, they might be, okay, well then let's look at something that allows you to use those skills that you have and put it may not be where I would want to volunteer because I wouldn't know the first thing about it. But if my child is that's their interest, allow them to share their talents and their voice in that way. So I think that's where, as a community, sometimes we fail our young generation is because we think we know what's best for them. But if we just ask them, all right, you don't want to go to church today because you don't want to go pack boxes. If you were going to do something for someone, what would you want to do? What speaks to you in this moment? And what do you think or you've seen? And sometimes you're not going to get an answer because they haven't been exposed to it. But sometimes you're going to be surprised because they are going to say, well, Johnny, my friend at school's mom says that he gets to go and do whatever, XYZ. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go volunteer with Johnny. So I think it's just listen and offer opportunities, exposure. So it's not always what I want to do. Give them a voice.
But I think you hit upon something when you spoke earlier about an expectation. there has to be an expectation, right? So my family, ever since not my mom and dad, but like my husband and I with our children, who are now grown, but it was always an expectation that they would come with us.
Yeah.
We are going to help do this. There wasn't asking, would you like to come? No, levántense, we're going, vámonos, and get dressed, we're going. And now my daughter's 29 years old. She came to visit, she lives in New York. She got off the plane at noon, and our food distribution event was at 5. I said, well, if you want, I'll drive you home so you can rest, and I'm gonna go to the food. She said, no, I'll help you. Her suitcase was in the car. She got out the car, started packing boxes, helped throughout the entire food. It was just second nature because she's always done it.
Yeah.
Every event that we've done, my poor husband, just dragged to everything. My kids, the whole family, my brothers-in-law, my sisters-in-law, we all as a big family do so many community things together, and I think that's why it wasn't surprising in my home to do it, because it was an expectation. This is what we do. We are going to help. You might not like this area. You don't want to pack boxes? Great, but I'm sure where we are in our food distribution event, there are about 5 other things that you can do if you don't want to pack boxes. You can help at the registration table. You can carry the boxes out to the cars. So I think giving them, but making sure that there's that expectation that we're going to give back, right? This is something that we as a family do. And it's great for bonding and family time. That counts.
There's a lot of, more than one question about, particularly for young families, if you're juggling soccer or ballet or take a pick, how do you make it a priority? And to your point, I think you somewhat answered that, is you just have to find a way to do it. But how do you carve out the time? How do you carve out the opportunity?
I think we live in this world that busy equals better, and it doesn't always equal better, right? We sign our kids up for a bazillion things and then we can't keep up. So I think prioritizing what's important to you and what's important to your family. It doesn't mean you have to volunteer every day. If you have soccer and that's important to your family, if you have basketball and that's important to your child, go do it. But there's gotta be, I don't know how many hours there are in a month, but there's gotta be a couple of hours in the month that you can give back.
And I also would point out that if your kid is on a team, you're connected to your community.
There you go. Yes.
You're meeting other people who are from a different part of Northern Kentucky, or maybe they're from
Absolutely.
across the river,
Yep.
and they have traveled in, and that's a connection too. So again, we've spent a lot of time talking about volunteerism, but that's just one form of connection.
Exactly.
So the natural next question and the natural move up is young professionals starting their career, they're in it and they're in that job and they're like, I have to work until I can't work anymore because I have to make a name for myself. I have to make sure I'm doing it right. And we have a question from the audience. Says it's increasingly harder, it seems, to get young people to volunteer in business organizations in particular as they try to manage this work-life balance. Then you throw in the family, and that becomes sort of the topic we just talked about. So what possible solutions are there for these like young professional age folks who are just, maybe they're just moving in or maybe they're out on their own for the first time?
There are opportunities. There's a young professionals, I think it's with the Northern Kentucky Chamber. They have the group for young professionals. There are opportunities for them. There is the BOLD program for nonprofit leadership to serve on boards. So there are opportunities for young professionals. I think it's just whether they are interested in that line of work or not, whether they want to be a part of that or not, if they're looking for it. Because if what they want to do is just make a name for themselves, that might not be at the top of their list. I
do think it's really important as organizations that we start thinking about that's the reality of our world. And we got to start thinking about how do we meet these volunteers where they are, because sometimes that's just as important. And so you're going to see that a lot of nonprofits are really getting creative with the way they serve and the way they give. And I will say that organizations, companies are getting better about allowing employees to, as part of their community engagement, saying, hey, I want you to take one day a month to do this service. I want you to do that. But then it's up to us as nonprofits to say, okay, let me allow you an opportunity for that, right? And so, just speaking on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters, we understood that. We hear that. We have a YP board ourselves, along with our executive board, and one of the things that we heard was, I really can't give after 5 p.m. But if there was an opportunity during the day because my company is allowing me to do this, what can I do? So we started Lunch Buddies program, where it's during your lunch period. You can go for an hour, one day a week, and meet with these kids and mentor them right at their school during your workday. We've expanded our programming to cover Beyond School Walls, which is a workplace mentoring program where the kids get to leave their school and go into the workplace and learn about, as juniors and seniors, hey, what opportunities do I have to graduate? Help me get my resume together, help me with interview process, help me build these soft skills so that I'm prepared when I graduate, whether it be to enter the college or let's be honest, a career path that's worked for us, because the nature of our program, many of our students are not college bound, right? And we're teaching them that's okay. We have opportunities for you after graduations that may not be college ready for you, right? There are career paths that you can do. So I think nonprofits in general are really getting creative with these opportunities. And so we need to be better about showing, hey, as a professional, here's a way you could give back that might fit in your schedule a little differently than what we think of nights and weekends, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, and I would also again say, like, okay, so maybe you are very business focused. There's got to be an organization for your industry or for your business, right? That creates a sense of connection. Mm-hmm. Talk about like getting on a board on, there are YP boards for these pseudo-government groups. What opportunity exists for that if it's, I need this to still be connected to my work because that's what I'm focused on right now? That exists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, go back to the chamber thing. The chamber is a wealth, in Northern Kentucky Chamber especially, and you know, I'm Northern Kentuckian, so I can speak highly of that. But it's a wealth of information, a wealth of opportunities for folks to expand their knowledge into an industry, their network. You know, I'm looking in this room, I see a bunch of people I know from the chamber. And also the opportunities for volunteerism are there as well. It was really good for me to be a part of the chamber. Professionally, and then I guess that turned into, you know, civically as well. Yeah. But I would highly recommend people doing that. And as far as industry-wide, you know, like I said, I'm in technology. There's a company called a group called the Circuit. Just last night we got together. We talked about AI. You know, that's all we did. We networked. We talked about AI, how it's impacting our business, how it's impacting our communities, and those types of things are out there for people to build their network, to build their knowledge, and it's just, yeah, they're out there for every industry.
Yeah. There's a great question in here, Ben, for you. It says, as a younger person running for office, did you struggle with getting voters to view you as a credible candidate because of your age?
Oh, wow, that's good.
I think so.
How'd you overcome it?
What's that?
How'd you overcome it?
I'm fun-loving. I'm very fun-loving. I don't know if that's how I overcame it.
The first drinks on Ben afterward?
Yeah,
all right.
Why not? But I'm also very professional. You know, I have a 20-some-odd year career in IT. I have done all these things with chambers and different things. And so as where I might be fun-loving and do that type of things, people think they see that I am a professional, and that when it comes to like a city council meeting last night, we had Hawaiian shirts. But we talked about tax rates and stuff like that. So as where we could have a Hawaiian shirt on, we're also talking about a very serious issue, and I think somehow or other people believed that I could do that.
Did you get pushback when you were door knocking?
Oh yeah, one guy called me a hack. I remember that guy. He's like, you're just a political hack. I'm like, no, I'm not, man. I'm trying to run for city council.
I live down the street.
Right. I'm trying to fix a pothole, dude. But yeah, I got some pushback, but at the end of the day, I think people do understand that I take the role very seriously. I take the city and its image very seriously. And yeah.
I'm going through your questions here again. Keep throwing them in pigeonhole. We're kind of eking away at them here. We've talked a lot about children, families, young professionals. One of the questions that's not in here, but we go up to, like, you get into retirement, and you think, I have nothing but time. I know this as someone who has retired parents. They've never been busier.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always mean you feel connected. So I feel like it's only fair that we talk about when you're in sort of the sunset years, what opportunities exist? How do you find them there? What are the unique challenges on sort of the other side of age?
I have a favorite group in our theater world that's here. For those of you who I didn't share with, so ACT Cincinnati is a nonprofit here in Cincinnati. I serve on the board for them. They're a member group. They have 20 nonprofit community theaters here in Cincinnati. And for one in particular, they call them they're the club, and they're all retired gentlemen that get together once a week to build sets for show for an upcoming production. And these are just this gentlemen who love to get together, and they hang out and they have a good time, and they use their power tools and they do their thing, and they serve in that way. But it is the Good Boys Club. They're hanging out, having a good time doing it, but they're doing it because they have that camaraderie and that friendship that they've built, and they're able to do that. I really think it comes down to that is their. I love our retired volunteers at Big Brothers Big Sisters and in the theater world because they've lived that life and they're ready. They want that next chapter, and so that is the perfect opportunity for them to engage in something they said, I've always wanted to do this, but. I've always wanted to do this, but I had kids. I've always wanted to do this, but I was working. I've always wanted to do this, but I was traveling too much. Mm-hmm. You don't have the but anymore, and so I think this is an opportunity for them to, which is probably why they're busy, because they're traveling and they're doing the things that they didn't get to do when they're working. But these are the individuals where they have that life experience and ability to give back in a way that is going to be different than our younger generations, right? And so I would encourage, again, to seek what passions are here and then use that to drive your give back.
One of the questions is about risk of getting involved. This is, again, from Pigeonhole here. How do you mitigate risk so people get in? We talked about barrier to entry, and I think there's a little bit of a conversation happening under this question about is it risk? Is it perceived risk? Is it, how do you calibrate a risk? Like, I think this goes back to the what's stopping people question.
Is it that they're uncomfortable? Is
Right.
it the anxiety that comes? I think, I think we all are, you said it, stop thinking about the what ifs. I think as humans, we naturally gravitate towards preserving ourselves, right? We don't want to get hurt. We don't want it to be too torturous for us. We don't want it to be hard work. We don't want to get invested in something and have our hearts broken. There's always that room for something to go wrong, right? Whatever it is. You sign up for something and then, God forbid, you aren't able to commit. Whatever, those are things that you think about. And that's natural as humans. But you said it the best, just, it's not think about the what ifs in a different way. What if I didn't do this?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right? Instead of what if something happens that is a negative thing, what if I don't do this? What if I don't stand up for this child? What if I don't attend this meeting? What if I don't get involved and start helping making my community a stronger place from a political standpoint? What if these families don't have a safe place to go to every single day where they know they're going to be accepted? Change the narrative. Yep. Flip that script a little bit, right? Instead of saying, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes right? And I can change it in a different way. And so, but I think that's a mental thing for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're all scared to step out of the comfort zones of the boxes that we find comfortable. You gotta do it. What if I don't cross the street? Well, then you're never gonna get across the other side. Yeah.
And what's the risk of showing kindness? Like, where do they see risk? I would love to know. It's am I going to be around dangerous people? Am I going to be around? There's a risk just being alive. Honestly, it's a risk. It's a risky business just being alive. So, I think when we put it in the right perspective, what's the risk in showing kindness to someone? What's the risk in helping a family that, okay, they don't look like you. You may not agree with a lot of things, but it's a family that needs help, and it's a family that might need food or that might need reclothing. What's the risk in that, really?
So another question I would say then, what happens if people don't engage in their community or they feel that they've become disconnected from their community?
I think they're going to stay there.
That's a bad world, man. If we don't have people who are out there who are putting their times, their talents, and treasures out there for the betterment of their community, we're in a bad spot. Luckily, we're not there. Luckily, we see increasing people who want to give out and be a part of these communities. Luckily, we are there, and I encourage everybody to do that, because I don't want to be in a community that nobody wants to help grow, nobody wants to be a part of.
I think when we're disconnected, that's when isolation comes in. Families feel isolated, people feel lonely, and that's why it's so important for us to stay connected. And through these opportunities, through government agencies, through nonprofit organizations, through the schools, if you feel at risk, then go volunteer at your school. If you feel better there, volunteer at the library. There are tons of places where you can go. But I think being disconnected, if we as a society become more disconnected, mental health is going to, mental illness is going to go up. Isolation and loneliness, suicide, all of those things are the negative effects of isolation and of loneliness and of not being connected. So I think that's so important for us to stay connected as a community and come together in Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I think to add on that, you hit the nail right on the head. We always say it takes a village,
Yeah.
right? You hear that, it takes a village. And it's because there is one, there's going to be one thing that you can say to somebody that you meet that might change the trajectory of their life.
That's right.
You can say one thing and that's going to stop them possibly from changing,
Absolutely.
Making a poor decision. So I just remember that our village is more than just, about raising kids. I would love to talk to you all day about children and the impact that we can make on that, but the village could be your safe place when you open that door and you allow those opportunities and those conversations to begin, and simply just introducing yourself to your neighbor, going to a community event. If I hesitate to say it, but maybe join your community Facebook groups. Oh. Maybe, though some of those are very entertaining.
I heard a loud boom. What's
yeah.
up that helicopter?
Something about wind chimes. I don't
What's
know.
that smell?
There's a coyote on the loose.
But in reality, I see names pop up in those groups, and then randomly you meet them in a community, and you feel like you know them.
Yep.
And so I think there is that opportunity to just open your door and say hello to your neighbor and just say, hey, we're in this together.
Yeah.
So with our final few minutes, I'd like to end on the positive note and maybe give people some homework. Twofold question. We've talked a lot about what people here, people watching can do or should do. What do you and your organization feel like you should now go do? And what would be one piece of advice or one easy way you would tell folks to get connected as they leave tonight?
Oh, gosh.
So, Ben, we'll start with you.
Thanks, man.
And we'll go back reverse. See, I gave you a break. Yeah.
Thank you for starting there.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You mentioned a couple things tonight and thought, wow, I could be doing that better. One would be working with children. The school.
I can help you with that.
Great. we want to do this.
We know someone.
The schools reached out to us, to the city, and asked us if we would meet with the student councils. So I didn't know this. They have an elementary school student council. These kids are already thinking, that's really cool. And the high school, too. So, one of the things that we're going to start doing is meeting with them on a regular basis to get their input onto the community that they want to be. Because what I want these kids to grow up in the city of Dayton, Kentucky, get a good education, and to stay there. That's the last thing I want to do is see them leave us. We want to retain these folks for as long as we can. So I think from tonight's conversation, I know that we need to do a better job of reaching out to the younger folks in our community that may not be having their voices heard. And then they sit there and complain that we never listen to them. Well, let's take that complaint away from them. Second of all is how do we get better interaction with community? It just can't be, well, it's on Facebook. We have all these different things on how we could ask people to help us. So asking for help, I think, is something that we could do a better job at. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
my turn. Not endorsing Nike, but just do it. Just seriously take the step. Find something that you're interested in at your church. at your schools, there are always, at my church, they're always talking about different volunteer opportunities in the community. What the most beautiful thing I can say is how you feel when you're doing it and when you see the face of someone that you're helping.
Yeah.
It's this sense of, it's this amazing feeling that you're doing something for someone else, not for yourself. And it's a very different feeling when you're doing something good for someone else as opposed to for yourself. And I think just taking that step, that leap of faith, and just trying it out. Step out of your comfort zone just a little bit and try it. Take a small step, and you're going to see the difference. You're going to feel the difference. Your children, if you take your children with you, to see their faces when they've helped someone, how proud they are of being able to hand the family a bag of whatever we're giving away. It's a beautiful thing, and the kids want to come back. I've got moms saying, can I bring my, absolutely, don't drop them off here, and you go somewhere and drop them off here, but yes, if you're staying, they can stay. And the kids have such a great time, and they learn so much. I would just say, just do it, forget the what ifs, take that leap of faith.
And if you're worried, it doesn't have to be that big of a thing. Start small, think micro. Think, there's no reason for you to jump full in if there's any kind of reservation, right? You can simply become a cheerleader, a raving fan of something that you're passionate about. Attend an event. You being here tonight shows that you're ready to engage in the community in a positive way. Yep. So just think, where can I start? Just to get started, and then that will motivate you to grow in whatever works for you. So it's not about driving full force. So I will take anybody in here who wants to come be a big or wants to learn more about getting involved in the arts community, and I come on down. But I want you to know that it's okay to not feel like you have to give every moment of every day into something. Just being a cheerleader for an organization will speak wonders. Share their events. Maybe posting something in a neighborhood group about an opportunity that maybe you're not going to do it yourself, but you're like, hey, I heard this is happening. Spread the word. Yeah. That we can't do it without that. So you don't have to be 2 feet in all the time. You really don't. You will when you find something that you love, because it'll speak to you, and then you'll know you're in the right place.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that's interesting. And now I said, last questions, but I always have more.
Reporters.
You hit on something, though, that's right. Dang reporters. You hit on something that I think is important. It does feel at times like we're preaching to the choir here. You took the time to be here. I bet that means you're involved. Yeah. I know some of you because I have seen you at 95 things.
Everything.
I know some of you are overly involved, and I don't know how y'all have the time. So sometimes it does feel like we're preaching to the choir here.
It does.
And you don't want to burn out the people who are already helping you or are already involved, because that's the worst thing you can do, is lose someone because you've run them ragged.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And we know
Been there, done it, both sides.
Yep.
How do you mitigate that?
Show appreciation. We like to call out the citizens that are doing the cool things. I don't want to. We got one coming up soon, so I don't want to.
In TV, we called that a tease.
Yeah, so stay tuned to next month, City Hall.
Film at 11.
City Council. We're going to give out a Citizen of the Year award to somebody who gave a lot of time and effort, and not by us asking. They just came out and said, this is important to me, and this is help benefit the community. And they just went and did it, And they had our 100% support, but now that person's going to be the Citizen of the Year, and we're going to give them a little key to the city. And those kind of things, they're going to hang it on their wall. They're going to think, that's pretty cool. And that might, make them refresh and keep coming back for more. And also might encourage others that, we are paying attention to people who are volunteering their time and giving to their community. And maybe you too can be the Citizen of the Year.
It doesn't go unnoticed.
Right.
Yeah. For me, I think it's organization and expectations. So if you have the same people volunteering and the same people taking on the load all the time, it is my responsibility as the organization to find someone else to help you. And I think people don't offer because they're afraid to, they don't know if they can. But if I know that you're a retired bookkeeper and I need help with that because I don't know what I'm doing. And I say to you, hey, I could really, going to that person and asking them directly for help, making sure that it's spread out evenly, that the work is spread out evenly, that it's not just 2 or 3 people, the same 2 or 3 people doing the work. But that's my responsibility as an organization, to make sure that I have equity across, that it's not, you're not doing the same thing all the time. Let's get some other people to help you. Let's lessen your load, and let's give people, take turns. Let's take turns. Like we're in kindergarten, let's take turns. But I think that's my job more than anyone else's, is to make sure that I'm treating my volunteers well and that I'm not shouldering everything on the same 3 people. Right.
I agree with that, and I think also giving them an opportunity to chime in on the equity, meaning these are your advocates, these are your biggest, your raving fans. So going to them and allowing them and empowering them in that opportunity to say, hey, how can we help? We love you. We appreciate you. Here's the key to our city. We thank you. What do you think? How can we see your dedication? We see what you're doing. What drives you to do this for us? And then their words will be more meaningful because they're going to bring in other individuals. They're going to bring in their brother. They're going to bring in their friend who says something. But if they don't have an opportunity to express that, we're never going to hear those raving reviews of your organization. So allowing their opportunity to have equity in what we're doing, in more than just, hey, here's another load for you. Please do this. You're always the yes person. I'm going to go to you. Instead of going to you to do something, go to them and ask them how we can be better.
So for those of you in Pigeonhole streaming here in the building, there is a closing poll, and it asks what you are taking away tonight, as I just lost the answers. What are you taking away from the conversation tonight, from what you've heard from our folks up here on the panel? Already some folks chiming in there, more opportunities than I realized. Great suggestions for getting connected. A call out to say, I want to be connected. I'd like to know how to help pull in volunteers. Someone said there is hope. Someone said read Link NKY. So there you go. Engage with local media. Engage with government. Engage with your industry group. Engage with your church. Engage with a theater group, the arts. It doesn't have to be volunteers. I think what I kind of kept coming back to here is we talked a lot about volunteerism. We talked a lot about government work. But there is all sorts of connection here. So drop us a note in there. Answer that closing poll. If you'd like to register, this again, as we mentioned at the top, the first of a series throughout the course of the next 11 months. Different topic each time. The next one is youth mental health. You can register already tonight. There's a QR code on the back of your program. You can scan that to do that. For those of you watching, just be on the lookout for that in all of Link NKY's media, social media, all of that. But it is 7:30, so our time is up. Let's give it up for our panelists, Ben, Theresa, Amanda. Thank you all for being here, for your suggestions, for your commitment to the community. And I'm sure if anyone has more questions, we'll be sticking around. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.